Our next act is Katerina Johnson, and she is going to be talking all about that gut feeling. Everyone give a big round of applause to Katerina!
Gutted. Gutsy. I've got a gut feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the science of that gut feeling. And there's quite a lot of evidence now that our gut, and in particular, the trillions of bacteria that live in it, can affect our brain and behaviour, including things like stress, anxiety, depression, and maybe even social behaviour. But how do bacteria, all the way down in our gut, affect our brain? Well, we think there may be 4 key mechanisms involved. So number 1, we have a major nerve directly connecting our gut and brain called the vagus nerve. And this is basically a communication highway. And if this nerve is damaged, then gut bacteria are no longer able to affect brain chemistry and behaviour. So what happens in Vegas definitely doesn't stay in Vegas. But a few studies find that the vagus nerve isn't always involved. This is why I love biology, right? Because just when you think you've figured it out, you realise you haven't got the whole story. So what other mechanisms could be at play? Number 2 is our immune system. So gut bacteria are actually really important for regulating our immune response and how our body deals with nasty microbes and infection. And an active immune response is good, but an overactive immune response can lead to inflammation, which I'll represent using fire. Don't worry, health and safety didn't let me. But it is a bit like a fire in your body, including your brain, that you can't see or feel. And inflammation has actually been linked to low mood and depression. So basically, some immune response is good, but not too much. Kind of like most things in life, really. Except science. You can never have too much science. So, my third mechanism, I've glamorously coined the square root of poo. So, hear me out on this one, guys. So basically, gut bacteria make up our poo. And when they break down our food, they produce waste products. So it's kind of like the poo of our poo. And in particular, they produce fatty acids that can actually directly enter the brain and affect behaviour. But I saved the most intriguing one till last. And this 4th mechanism is that gut bacteria can actually produce chemicals of identical structure to our brain's own neurotransmitters. So things like serotonin and dopamine. But why do bacteria even need to make neurotransmitters if they don't have nerves? Well, we think that maybe they use these chemicals for cell signalling. So that's a bit like Instagram, but for bacteria. It's to tell other bacteria how they're doing and what's in their environment. And one hypothesis is our own ability to produce neurotransmitters is that way back in evolution history, we actually stole these genes from bacteria and incorporated them into our own genome. So maybe we even have bacteria to thank for having any emotions and feelings at all. And by helping to figure this out, we hope that it may lead to novel and effective treatments for mental health. Thank you.
What a potty talk. What a poo. Georgina, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, another intriguing story. So what kind of, what do you see as the kind of research route to using these discoveries to actually treat mental health?
You mean understanding the mechanisms behind it, or the applications of it?
How might you apply this understanding?
Yeah, so a lot of research at the moment is going to understanding how we may treat things like depression and autism. So actually, we often in the field use an extreme case where animals are grown and live their whole lives with no microbes. And we find that they actually show impairments in their social behaviour and social communication. And you can rescue these impairments with specific types of bacteria. And actually autism, people that suffer from autism also typically have gastrointestinal issues, so we think there may be a link. And the same also with things like depression and psychiatric things that some initial studies suggest that it may be as effective using specific bacteria to colonize the guts as commonly prescribed antidepressants. And there's a few preliminary studies finding that fecal microbiota transplants can actually improve symptoms in humans as well.
So Katerina, you're very passionate about your subject. you obviously enjoy being a science communicator. How would you feel though if you were asked to talk about like outer space in the universe?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Brian Cox, so I think I could probably manage that. But I mean, I love the whole of biology and neuroscience. I've done quite a lot of work on actually like animal personality, so this is where my interest stemmed from. I'm really interested in the brain and understanding why there are individual differences in behaviour between people. I've looked at like birds and lots of animals actually have personality, and that was the key thing. And then to find that the gut microbiome can affect the brain and to kind of understand how that works together. Basically, for my PhD, I thought, well, we don't know anything about the brain and we don't know anything about the gut microbiome, so I'll study both at the same time. I survived though. But yeah.
Time for one more question. Katerina, I mean, it's really fascinating. You're talking about something that almost sounds like an evolutionary or co-evolutionary system here. So have we, or higher mammals, let's say, evolved so that we recognize our own gut microfauna?
As opposed to
I mean in an immunological sense or something like that.
Yeah, so the whole problem now is that we grow up when we're children in very hygienic environments, and it's actually when we're really young that it's really important to be exposed to the right types of microbes. So our bodies learn what types of microbes they're to respond to and what types are kind of safe. And so that's why we think there might be an increase in things like autoimmune conditions now. And that's one of the things we've actually found with fecal microbiota transplants, that sometimes if they don't work, there might be some kind of incompatibilities in terms of like the immune system between the donor and the recipient, but that's a really new area.
All right, thank you. Great. Okay, let's give her a big round of applause.